Hi everyone, this is Jessica with K&A Greenhouse. Once again, we are entering a new season with gardening, and I have put together a few PowerPoint presentations on the new plants that we will be seeing in the nursery yard for the 2025 season. The first one is here with the new shrubs that we'll be seeing in the nursery yard this year. Okay, so the first new shrub for us this year is from Proven Winners. It is a black chokeberry called Lowscape Snowfire. This particular variety will actually be replacing the Lowscape hedger for us, so we won't have the hedger, we will have this one instead. About the same size as the Lowscape hedger was, so it's about 3 to 4 feet tall, 3 to 4 feet wide. This one likes full sun to part sun. I have seen people grow them in full shade. They don't do quite as well. They're more of a leggy plant, not quite as thick and robust as if you put it in full sun or part shade. You can see from the photos, they do get white flowers in the spring, and then as it goes more towards late summer, you'll see those navy blue berries, which are edible to birds, mammals, rodents, and to humans. They have quite a few health benefits for the humans. Just one word of caution, you probably don't want to eat them raw. Not a lot of people can take the taste of them, so you do need to add sugar when you're cooking with these particular berries, but they do have a lot of health benefits, which is a lot of the reason why some people are growing them now, is more of like an edible garden with, things like elderberry that also have health benefits as well. The fall color on these in full sun is going to be a bright red. If you have it more in part sun or full shade, it is going to be more of an orange color versus a bright red color. Also salt tolerant, so you can plant these by driveways and by like front sidewalks if you salt your sidewalks. They are also drought tolerant once they get established. So this is a good one for if we continue to have a lot of droughty springs and summers. These will be able to handle that quite well. Black chokeberry is also a native shrub in Wisconsin. So while this is not the true native, this one is a variety of a Wisconsin native, so it's a native R, which is great because we know that it's going to be hardy enough to grow here in the state of Wisconsin. The hardiness zone on it is 3 to 9, so definitely all of Wisconsin should be able to grow this particular shrub. So the second new one we're getting in this year is a barberry called Sunjoy Gold Pillar. This is very similar to the orange rocket that we had last year, and we will be getting a little bit later in the season. It'll be in May that we get it instead of in April. But this one is the yellow leafed version of the orange rocket. The leaves will come out orange in the spring, and then they'll change to this yellow or kind of limey green yellow color in summer, and then in the fall it'll be orange again. Just as a note with barberries, they're somewhat difficult for me to purchase because a lot of the barberry are listed as an invasive species in Wisconsin. So the three varieties that I do have that I keep getting in is Concord, Orange Rocket, and now this Sunjoy Gold Pillar. They are listed as not being invasive, either because they do not produce the berries, which is what generally makes the barberries invasive, or if they do produce berries, they're sterile, so that they won't, if the birds eat the berries and then they pass them in the woods, they won't actually grow. So you can know that at least at this point in April of 2025, they are not considered invasive species of what we sell in our nursery yards at K&A Greenhouse. So back to the plant. Columnar growing habit, it is about 3 to 4 feet tall, only about 1 to 1.5 feet wide, maybe 2 feet at the most. They do take some pruning, but they don't really need pruning to grow this particular way. They make kind of a nice shorter hedge if you're looking for something just to line, the front of a garden bed. It won't really be a good hedge because you can still see over 3 to 4 feet usually. The other note that I saw when I was looking through all my plants that I could possibly order this year. This one says that the leaves will not burn or fade in full sun like some of the other barberries will. So this will maintain that nice yellow color all summer long without kind of fading to a white or tan color like some other ones do. Um, the other thing I should note, the hardiness zone on this one is zone 4 to 8, so it will not be hardy in all of Wisconsin, but definitely where we are in Madison, it will be hardy enough for us to grow here. Um, Another dogwood for us this year. I know we do offer a lot of different dogwoods, kind of because they're so versatile and they do like wet soils. Some of them are good hedge plants. But this one I saw last year when I was touring one of our suppliers down in northern Illinois. And it was probably early September, so the leaves on it were actually really cool. So I'll explain that in a little bit. This one is 4 to 6 foot tall and 6 to 8 feet wide. Comes to us from Proven Winners again. You can see the white flower clusters that it gets in spring. They do also get the white berries later in the summer that the birds eat. Not recommended for human consumption, but like I said, the birds will love it. So if you want to attract birds to your landscape, definitely something you can plant. The kind of larger photo with the flower is what it will look like in spring and in summer. So it has kind of a mint green in the middle, and then it has a white cream variegation on it. So when I saw it, it actually looked like the smaller photo. So the leaves kind of turned from being that creamy color to more of a pink and green. So I thought that it looked really different than a lot of other dogwoods that you see. This one is also a red twig dogwood, so you will also have those red stems in the winters until they start to get kind of woody and larger. But that's true for pretty much all of the red and yellow twig dogwoods that we'll see here. Hardiness on this is zones 3 to 7, so everywhere here in Wisconsin should be able to grow it. And this one in particular prefers full sun to part sun, so it'll be 4 hours or more of full sun a day. It will tolerate full shade, but the coloration on it in the fall will not be quite as nice. And as a note about the coloration that I saw with the pink, that tends to happen as the nights get cooler, but we still have warmer days. So there are some plants that we have in the nursery yard where you don't see as much of the coloration until late August or September when we get those, 70-degree days, but the nights dip down into the 50s. So that will trigger something in the plant to have this sort of thing happen where the flowers will be a different color, or in this case, the leaves will just change to a really cool pink and green color instead. All right, this one I'm very excited about because I've actually tried to get this one in for the last 4 to 5 years, and I've just never been able to get it confirmed. So this year we have probably, I want to say 3 or 4 of them coming in. That's all I could get, but it's better than 0. If you are familiar with the hairy louders walking stick, which is a filbert in the American hazelnut kind of family, this is the red-leafed version of the hairy louders walking stick. So it still has those really twisty, weird-looking branch structure, which is very noticeable in the winter. But during the spring and summer, during the growing season, the foliage on it is going to be this deep maroon kind of purple color. It's a larger plant, so you have to give it some space. 8 to 12 feet tall. It'll be about 6 to 8 feet wide. It can take some pruning, but I don't usually recommend to do a lot. The only time I tend to prune my hairy louders walking stick is when it sends up those suckers, where it's just a straight stalk, and you can tell the difference because it's not the twirly whirly like the hairy louders walking stick usually gets. This one is also juglone tolerant, so if you have walnut trees, butternut trees, this will definitely grow by it, underneath it, nearby. And this one will also grow in zones 3 to 9, so we should be able to grow it in the entire state of Wisconsin. So this one's coming a little bit later. We're getting it from a supplier out west in Oregon. So we won't be getting it until right around Mother's Day, but I'm very much looking forward to hopefully grabbing one for myself as well. This shrub is one that people have started looking for the last year or two. This is the native bush honeysuckle that we see here in Wisconsin. I have not had any suppliers previously growing this one, but I did find one of my suppliers here in Wisconsin is growing it this year. So I do have these snagged to come to us in the 2025 season. It's a fantastic native. It is full sun to full shade, so it will grow in any sort of light condition, tolerates all soil types. Foliage is green, and then it gets the white flowers in summer, which actually do last quite a long time. They will attract the pollinators, so you'll have hummingbirds, butterflies, all sorts of bees if you have this particular shrub. I should note the deer villa is not the invasive honeysuckle that is on the DNR list. It is the Lonoceras that are on the honeysuckle that are on the DNR invasive list. So this one is totally fine to plant. You're not planting an invasive species. I absolutely try not to get any invasive species into the nursery yard. So anyway, very easy to grow plant. I have 6 of them at my house holding a hillside in place because they have more of a running root system. So because of that, they hold that soil on my hillside in place. Before it would rain and then I'd have soil and mulch down in the bottom part of my yard. So since I planted them, they've done a great job. And like I said, the pollinators love it, hummingbirds love it. Full sun to full shade, 3 to 4 feet tall, 3 to 4 feet wide. It's a really short, nice shrub. If you don't have room for other native species, that will be 6 to 8 to 10 feet tall. So highly recommend this plant. So if you don't particularly like the green foliage of the previous slide of the bush honeysuckle, this one is a variety, so it's a variety of a native, Kodiak Red 2.0. So in the past there have been the Kodiak Orange, Kodiak Black, and Kodiak Reds. They've found an improvement for the Kodiak Red where this one holds onto that red color longer versus the original Kodiak Red that kind of just fades to green and looks like the native variety. So this one's supposed to hang on to the red coloring a little bit better. Still has the yellow flowers that the pollinators and the hummingbirds flock to. This one is still going to be 3 to 4 feet tall, 3 to 4 feet wide, full sun, full shade, tolerant of all the soils, deer and rabbit resistant. And I should actually mention both the previous slide and this current slide. The bush honeysuckle are walnut or juglone tolerant, so you can plant them underneath or near walnut trees, butternut trees, anything that exudes that juglone toxicity. And with the hardiness on these, it is zone 3 to 8, so everywhere here in Wisconsin should be able to grow the bush honeysuckle. This Forsythia is called Citrus Swizzle. It is definitely not new on the market. Back, I want to say about 20 years ago now, this one was sold at the garden center I worked at up near Appleton, Fremont area. So it's been on the market for a while. I just have never gotten it in here, and I decided this year just to give it a go again. It's a nice plant because it's shorter. So a lot of people like Forsythia because they like the yellow flowers. I will say this one does not really flower reliably. It's more grown for the variegated leaves that you can see in the photo. So don't grow this one if you want the Forsythia flowers. We do have Gold Tide that is also a shorter, like 3-foot shrub. That one is going to flower a little bit better for you, whereas this one is grown, like I said, for the variegated leaves. Like I said, it is shorter though, so 1.5 feet to 2 feet tall with about the same width. So it will have more of almost like a perennial herbaceous plant sizing to it, which is kind of nice. We do get questions from customers who would like something, 1 to 2 feet tall. We don't have a lot of shrubs in the yard for that, sizing. So hopefully this will fit the bill for some of you. This will also be full sun to part shade. Don't plant this in full shade. It just won't really do that well for you, so you need at least 4 hours of sun or more for this plant to do well. It will tolerate pretty much any soils, so clay, sand, or anything in between. It'll be perfectly fine. And it is also juglone tolerant. I will also say from experience, since mine is not only by walnut trees at my house, but also right along the driveway, Forsythia are also salt tolerant because of the way our driveway is set up. We definitely need to salt it in the winter just so that we can get our cars up and out. And they don't seem bothered at all by that either. So This one is one that I generally will only be getting in spring, so once we sell out of this particular variety, we will be out of it until the following season. So if this is one you're interested in, I would definitely give us a call or email us just to see if we still have it in stock, and then maybe we can pull it for you if this is something that you wanted. Now we are entering the part of the presentation of all of the new hydrangeas. This one we actually did have at the tail end of last year, but I wanted to give it a mention in a PowerPoint anyway, just in case people weren't out at the end of last year. So this one is a introduction from Bailey Nurseries and their first editions line. It's called Flowerful. It is basically a dwarf Annabelle. So with the smooth hydrangeas, we have a couple different series. We have the Annabelle, which is kind of the old-fashioned one that most people know of. I typically get in the Incredible types. I'll get in the Invincible types, and then I used to get in Bar Harbor with the Seaside Serenade series. Instead of the Bar Harbor, which I know is in one of my hydrangea talks that I also give, so that one we are not getting in anymore. Flowerful seems to do a little bit better. It has the white flowers, but there's more of them than the Annabelle typically gets, and it seems to hold them up on the stems a lot better. It doesn't flop as much as the Bar Harbor was that I was seeing in the gardens. So this one is a 3 to 4 foot tall and about 4, maybe 5 feet wide. I actually did plant one in my gardens last August. So we'll see how it does, but it is walnut tolerant, so that one, being a smooth hydrangea, will do perfectly fine in that type of shade. The flowers do bloom for a couple of months in the summer, so you'll get them most likely. It'll start around the end of June, early July, and it'll continue on for a couple of months. You'll get that nice showing. So as with most smooth hydrangeas, part sun is okay. Full shade is great. It's listed as being tolerant of full sun. I always am nervous about telling gardeners that, just because sometimes with smooth hydrangeas, if you don't water them enough, then they will, they'll wilt and then they'll get the crispy leaves, especially the first couple of years. So they will need, if you do have it in full sun, they will need a lot more water, probably the first 3 to 4 years until their root system gets established enough. And then that would be totally fine. So if you do have this in a full sun spot, I would try to make sure that you have it by hose, or kind of set a reminder on your phone or something, just to make sure they get enough water so they can put on that full, nice white flowering show for you. The second new hydrangea we're getting in this year is a Panicle hydrangea called Pufferfish. I remember a couple of winters ago I got a request from a landscaper, I believe, who was interested in this particular plant, and I had honestly never heard of it, just because there's so many hydrangeas out on the market. But this year I did see them available from one of our suppliers here in the Midwest, so thought I would give them a try. This one is a Panicle hydrangea, so full sun is fantastic. They love hot and dry. Part sun is also okay. I wouldn't put this one in full shade. It's not going to, flower, do what it's supposed to do for you in full shade. So keep this one in more of a sunnier spot. South side, west side is great. This flower is a little bit interesting. This is the photo here shows it in the first part of what it does when it flowers. So it'll come out white. Kind of, if you're familiar with the Bobo hydrangea flower, it's kind of like that, where they're really tiny florets that make up that cone-shaped flower. It'll change to a lime green with age, and then when the lime green part is finished, then at the very tips, new little florets will come out white. So it'll kind of have that bicolor effect almost. So this guy will also tolerate wet soils, so if you have a semi-wet spot, this one will do okay there too. But like I said, it's also drought tolerant. Some people say that it is deer and rabbit resistant. Other people say that the rabbits will just mow them down. So kind of the jury's out on that one. But it's hardy to zone 3. So again, here in Wisconsin, we should be perfectly fine to grow this particular variety. So this big leaf hydrangea here is called Silver Blue. It is very similar to a different variegated hydrangea that I had gotten in probably about 5 or 6 years ago now from Bailey Nurseries, called Light O'Day. I was told from the suppliers that this one Probably won't flower here in Wisconsin very reliably. So while the lace cap blue flowers look fantastic here, I wouldn't expect to get flowers. You basically would just have them as a bonus. If you do get the flowers, they are going to be reliant, the flower color is going to be reliant on your soil pH. So if you have sandier soils, the blue color is what you're going to see. If you have more of the clay soils, you're going to have more of a pink color or purplish pink color instead of the blue. But again, mostly this is grown for the variegated foliage. Full shade is fantastic for this plant. It also will tolerate part sun if that part sun is morning sun. I would not put this in a western exposure afternoon or late afternoon sun. Full sun is definitely a no-no. But this one really likes to have those moist soils. Could tolerate more of a wetter soil type too if that's something that you have. This one is also zone 5, so it's not something that I would stick out, on the perimeter of your lot line or anything like that. It would need a little bit more protection just in case we get those nasty polar vortexes sometimes that like to rear their ugly heads here in our winters. So if you can keep this one closer to your house too, that would definitely help it to make it through the winters okay. The next new hydrangea variety is called Sweet Starlight. This has been on the market for a few years and I just have not pulled the trigger on it. Decided to this year just because it's one of those kind of smaller ones. Mature size is going to be about 4 feet tall. This is going to also be 3 to 4 feet wide. So it's going to be able to fit into a city lot size. It's not going to be huge. The flowers of it remind me of the Quickfire Fab, just because it's so densely packed and it almost looks fluffy to me. But it's obviously a dwarf version of the Quickfire Fab. So if you don't have the room for some of those larger 6 to 8 foot Panicle hydrangeas, this would be a good option for you. Flowers will come out white first, and then with age they will fade to the pink that you can see in that photo there. Full sun is best. It will tolerate part sun. Not tolerant at all of full shade. It just won't flower that well and it'll get floppy. So 4 hours or more is best for this particular hydrangea as well. A new mountain hydrangea that we're getting in this year is Tough Stuff Top Fun. This was another one that I saw on a tour that I took late summer, early fall last year. This one really did have a lot more flowers on it than some of the other Tough Stuff mountain hydrangea varieties that I saw there. So decided to give it a shot. I don't know how long I'll be able to have this one in because the supplier that we are getting it from, they are not growing it anymore. So we may only have it early in the spring and then we won't be able to have it later in the summer. I'll see if I can get it from other suppliers though in the meantime. So this particular plant, the flowers are that lace cap with the larger flowers on the outside and the small ones in the middle. And the flower color is dependent on soil pH. So if you have clay soils, it'll be more of the pink that you see in the photo here. If you have more of the sandier soils or loamy soils, it'll be more of kind of almost a lavender color instead. They don't turn blue though, so that is not going to be a color that you'll see with this particular variety. Another improvement, I don't know if you want to call it improvement, but some people like the burgundy stems. So this variety will also have those nice burgundy stems. So you'll have the really dark green leaves and then the burgundy stems, and then when it starts to flower later in the summer, you'll have the flowers for the interest as well. Mountain hydrangea are tolerant of growing underneath my walnut trees, so I list them as being juglone tolerant. I feel like they generally do better in part sun versus full sun. The leaves seem to change to a burgundy kind of because they get so stressed out whenever we put them in a full sun in the nursery yard. So full shade is fine. Like I said, I have mine underneath my walnut trees. They're under 8 trees, so they don't get much more than dappled sunlight throughout the day. And part sun I think would be perfectly fine as well. If you do put it in full sun, I would think it would be a lot like the smooth hydrangeas, where you would need to just water them more often the first couple years just to get them established better. And once that root system is good to go and can reach for that water elsewhere, then maybe you can back off from that. This variety is going to be 2 to 3 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet wide at maturity. So it's a nice, smaller, compact hydrangea shrub as well. This shrub is actually one that I have gotten in the past, but it's been about 6 years since I've gotten it in, so I wanted to mention it again. Um, I also really like this particular plant. It is a variety of a Wisconsin native, so it's hardy here for Wisconsin. It has, you can see the yellow flowers on it. They bloom in June. They tend to flower for about 3 or 4 weeks, and the bees love this plant. So if you're looking to attract any sort of pollinator, honeybee, bumblebees, anything, they just love the flowers on this particular shrub. Um, the leaves on this variety, cobalt and gold, is more of a blue-green than a true green color, so that kind of offsets that yellow flower as well. When they're done flowering, they'll just be kind of like a blue-green shrub. It's not a very tall plant. This one is 2 to 3 feet tall. We'll get a little bit wider. It's listed as being 4 to 5 feet wide. I don't have this variety at my house, so I don't know. I can't speak to how wide this one gets, but that is what Bailey Nursery says it's going to be. I will say the other hypericum I do have at my house are also juglone tolerant, so you can put these, kind of close to, you don't want to put them underneath the canopy because they are a full sun plant. But mine is about 20 feet away or so, and it does totally fine. So they are juglone tolerant as well. And it's noted on a couple of websites that I found on the internet as being salt tolerant, but it's not listed on all of them. So I think don't plant an entire hedgerow by your driveway because you may be disappointed if we end up having ice storms and you need to salt your driveway. But this one is also, which is why I planted it, deer and rabbit resistant. They eat quite a bit of my plants. I have some rabbits that are kind of kept under control now by some hawks and owls, but the deer have certain pathways that they take through my landscape every single day, and they've never actually tried to eat any of the hypericum varieties that I've ever grown. So can definitely say that they're deer resistant, at least at my house. Sweetspire is one that is, in my opinion, an underused shrub in the landscape. We, for years now, have been getting in Henry's garnet, which is a larger, like 5 to 6 foot tall plant. And we've also gotten Little Henry in, which is more of like a 2 to 3 foot size and mature. This one is called Love Child. It's kind of in between them. So the mature size on this one is going to be 3 to 4 feet tall and 3 to 4 feet wide. So it's a little bit taller than Little Henry if you wanted a little bit more oomph in your landscape. They all have the white flowers that you can see in that photo. They typically bloom, I want to say in June. I usually recommend for people to give it a haircut or just deadhead after it's done flowering because those white flowers will turn brown and they kind of they make the shrub look unkept. But if you can deadhead it, give it a nice little start again. And then in the fall color of the Love Child is this bright burgundy red fall color. The other two sweet spires that we have, the Little Henry and Henry's Garnet, they'll be more of an orange color. So this one has more of a pop to it in the landscape as well. Sweet spire is also tolerant to wet soils. So if you have kind of a part sun or a shady spot that has almost like a rain garden where it's wet after it rains and then kind of dries out, this one would do totally fine in that spot as well. I will caution you that rabbits do like to eat this, especially in the winter. So if you do have this plant, I would fence it off at least in the winter months until there's other food sources available for the rabbits. It's supposed to be juglone tolerant, but I've never grown it at my house to test that theory out. So just go based on what the website, the internet says. It's supposed to be juglone tolerant. So the hardiness zone on this is 5 to 9. So just make sure that you have, that you're in a zone 5 if you do decide to plant this particular shrub. Many people are familiar with ninebarks by now. They're a pretty easy, low maintenance shrub, not real fussy about soil types. They are drought tolerant once they get established. I will say the first few years, they will definitely let you know if they're getting too dry, their leaves wilt. But once the roots get themselves established, it's drought tolerant. The summer wine ninebark has been on the market for a very long time. Again, probably about 20 years ago, we started selling it at the garden center I worked at back up in Appleton. This one is summer wine black, so it is the improvement of the summer wine. This one has foliage that is a very dark color. I did see this one side by side next to a summer wine, and the summer wine had, I mean, it had maroon foliage. It was kind of an olive green cast to it, whereas the summer wine black really had really dark, deep purple color. It'll still get those clusters of white flowers, which then turn into the papery red berries later in the summer. They tend to bloom in June. And then the summer wine black will have that same kind of vase-shaped, cascading growing habit that you kind of associate with like a brattlebary spirea. So that will have that same growing habit as well. The mature size of this one is the same as the summer wine, 5 to 6 feet tall and about the same width. One note with this one, because it is new on the market, I was not able to get a lot of them. So this is another one that if you are interested in it, I would probably call ahead or email us just to see if we even have it before you come out and find out that we're already sold out. So I'll keep my eyes open for this. I'm hoping that the supplier comes out with a second batch in like July and August. But we'll just have to see. Otherwise, next year I hope to get more than we were able to get this year. So I'm throwing roses in here with the shrubs just because we only have this one. So, and technically I guess it is kind of a shrub-ish, which is funny because this one is also known as a climbing rose. The Rise Up series from Proven Winners, there's a few different types. We had Rise Up Ember Rays last year, which is a coral color. We'll be getting that in again this year. This is Rise Up Lilac Days. The Proven Winners brand says that it's a shorter climbing rose because it is about 5 to 8 feet tall at maturity. So some of the other shrub roses we have in are also going to be about 5 or 6 feet. You could keep it pruned down shorter if you prefer for it to be more of a shrub rose than a climbing rose. Otherwise, if you want to let it keep growing, you can let it grow up to its full potential of the 8 feet. The flowers on this are a lilac colored, like almost a light purple colored bud. And then it opens up to this kind of lavender pink colored flower, which is about as close as you're going to get unless you want to do a hybrid tea or a floribunda to get that purple coloring. It's really hard to find a shrub rose that has a purple flower to it. The hardiness zone on this one is 4 to 9, so it's a little bit hardier than some other roses that are on the market. I honestly haven't seen the flower, so I don't know how much of a purple lavender hue it has to it, but I'm excited to find out. This is one of two new lilac shrubs that we're getting in this year. Bloomerang Ballet is kind of a dwarf. It's going to be 3 to 4 feet tall and 3 to 4 feet wide. The flower on it will flower profusely in spring, like they always do in May. They will have the fragrance that lilacs always have. This one has a pink flower, and it is the improvement of Bloomerang Dwarf Pink that we've had in the past. So that variety is not available anymore, but this one is supposed to have a better root system and supposed to flower better, more reliably. It will also rebloom again in July and August, kind of sporadically. It won't be as, floriferous as it usually is in spring, but you'll still get those handful of flowers throughout the late summer season. This one also, because it is a hybrid type of a dwarf Korean lilac, will have that kind of burgundy maroon fall color as well. And as a note with lilac shrubs, full sun to part sun is great. Full shade is not good. They tend to not bloom as well if you put them in more of a shadier spot. They also do not like wet feet. So if you can have a spot that's, full sun to part sun, 4 hours or more, and the soil is definitely going to be able to dry out after it rains, that's what the lilacs will prefer. So this is the second lilac new variety that we're getting in, also the last new shrub for the 2025 season. If you are familiar with Miss Canada, Pink Teeny is the dwarf version of Miss Canada. This one will be 4 to 5 feet tall, about 3 to 4 feet wide at maturity. It flowers pink, just like the Miss Canada does. Has that lilac fragrance. The Preston lilacs also basically leaf out and flower later than other lilac varieties do, which is nice just because we here in Wisconsin tend to get we get zapped by a lot of late season frost and sometimes late April snow, which will then make the other lilac leaves cupped and curled and they just don't look as nice. So this one leaves out a little bit later. That tends to keep it from getting zapped. The leaves look great on it. The flowers look great. The this particular shrub is drought tolerant, doesn't like the wet soils like I was talking about with the Bloomerang Ballet. So full sun, part sun, 4 hours or more basically of sun. It'll be drought tolerant once it gets established, and it'll fit into a city a lot better, being the 4 to 5 foot height on this one. And the hardiness zone on this one, just like Miss Canada, is also going to be a zone 2. So here in Wisconsin, absolutely no problem growing this particular variety. Also, this one is noted as being deer resistant. So because it's new on the market, I do not have it at my house. Also is not juglone tolerant, so I would have to find a real special spot for it. But it's being touted as being a deer resistant shrub, and it's been on the market for about 2 or 3 years, so I feel like they've done enough trialing on that to figure out if you have deer, this one is still going to be okay. So that concludes the new shrubs for 2025. If you do have questions, you can email knagreenhouse@gmail.com. If you have a question for me, you can put "Attention Jessica" in the subject line, and then that way I know it's for me. We do have about 6 or 7 different people that check that email, so doesn't always get to me if my name's not in the subject line. You can always give us a call too. Phone numbers are there for each location. I do have a work cell phone that works with text messages, so if you prefer to text, that number is 920-415-4474, and I can get back to you if I'm in the office that day. Otherwise, when I'm back in the office, I will be able to get a text message sent back out to you. I hope you enjoyed that, and tune in for the new evergreens and the new trees presentation as well.